Hi, I'm Izzy and I'm the host today for our My Career podcast where we have KPMG on the sofa, Freya and Sami telling us about the programs, how you can smash the application process and about all KPMG's values and what they believe in as a business.
Yeah, so I'm Freya. I'm one of the senior managers at KPMG in the student recruitment team.
Amazing. And Sami, yourself?
And yes, I'm a second year degree apprentice working in the CLR department in Audit and currently 20 years old.
Amazing. So today we really want to kind of share some light on KPMG, the programs that you have on offer for young people, and both of your experience is of that, kind of you in the recruitment team, Freya, and kind of heading that up, and then Sami, your experience kind of coming through that process. So who are your apprenticeships aimed at, Freya?
Yeah, so I would say that apprenticeships are not just aimed at school leavers. It is open for all. That is the point of an apprenticeship. It's a training program. So you can be someone that has never, gone into the world of work before and looking for something. Equally, you could be someone, that has a bit of experience behind you, but looking to change career paths or looking to get back into the world of work from a break. So I would say that there is no age limit to apprenticeships, and then that it's open for all.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And in terms of kind of why KPMG are different, like why should people choose you?
Yes, so the KPMG has 5 core values that make everything that we do. So it's instilled with everyone that works in that firm and is part of kind of the world that we work in and how we deliver to our kind of clients and audited entities. That consists of integrity. We want to do the right thing, and so we strive for that. Excellent, ensuring that we are continuously learning and that we're continuously growing. Together, working together, that collaboration, and courage. We stand up for what's right, and then also for better.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that'll be so useful for young people to be able to put in their applications, and now they know what's going to make them stand out. Freya, to kind of anyone, whether it's a parent, student, teacher, how do you describe who KPMG are and what do they do?
Yeah, so KPMG is a professional services firm. What that means is that they provide professional services through people and the firm itself, to clients, to audited entities, to provide them with a service. So the product is the person. They come with skills, they come with specialist training, which Sami will talk about in a bit around his qualification. But essentially what we're doing is we're supporting the clients and the audited entities in terms of helping them get to where they need to with regards to a topic that they have.
Cool. And how can young people get in? So what programs do you currently offer for school leavers?
Yeah, so we have a range of different programs. We've got quite a few different capabilities or business areas in KPMG. That covers audit, which is our biggest area, but we also have tax, law, consulting, advisory, technology. So lots of different ways that people can get involved in if they have different kind of career ambitions.
Yeah, and I think that's really key to kind of highlight is because some people will see you as a professional services firm and think that's the only programs you do. But like you said, you have a legal program, you have tech. So, but then obviously audit is your biggest, and that's why it's great to have you, Sami, here today.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit about your current program, what that looks like, the level of it, and kind of how you got there, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess to start off with, the audit program is a 5-year scheme. And you kind of progress through different departments. So I'm in the corporates department right now, so auditing listed entities.
Okay.
And in terms of getting here, I mean, the first step is to, I think, talk to current apprentices at the firm, kind of get a gist of what they do on a day-to-day. And from there, I kind of looked into audit, accounting, how does KPMG help these audited entities? And through that, just moving through the application process and landed the role.
Amazing. And what does kind of auditing mean for you in terms of the program? So do you do exams? How does the study side of it work? Because I know that's a bit of a grey area for a lot of people.
Yeah. So we start off with the level 3 AET exams.
Okay.
So these comprise of 3 to 4 exams. And after that, you move on to the level 4, which progresses you on to the ACA, which is a 2-year scheme. And then at the end of that, you become a chartered accountant. So it's a kind of 5-year program in which you kind of qualify through those AET routes. And in terms of college, I mean, it's quite good how KPMG kind of give you that study leave, give you those opportunities to kind of focus on your exams, because oftentimes it's really hard to balance kind of a 9 to 5 and studying. So I guess it's been great so far. The support's been good. And just progressing through the level 4 currently.
And what did you always want to be an accountant? Like, was that always the goal for you? How
no,
did it come about?
I mean, yeah, from the beginning, I wanted to be an architect.
Amazing.
At first, like, buildings, etc. But over time, I was like, okay, I want to kind of provide some sort of professional service, whether that's corporate law, accounting, audit, finance. So I looked at my options and initially applied to corporate law apprenticeships. So I mean, for the first 6-7 months of year 13, all I was focused on was law. Like with all the work experience, with all the people I spoke to, it was mostly about, okay, how do I become a corporate solicitor? I want to be a lawyer. But over time, I think I learned about finance, accounting, and I kind of got drawn into it.
Yeah, it
But I mean,
resonated more.
yeah, just for all the students, I mean, you're never going to know what you want to do until you do it. Like, I didn't know what an audit. What does, not many people know what that actually means,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it's yeah, I guess I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of fell into it, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing with most students. That's going to happen.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and I always say to young people, it's best to even just rule things out. Like,
Yeah.
go and give it a go, and then if you don't enjoy it, obviously it's best if you don't do that for your whole apprenticeship. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
go to insight days, go and do work experience, and
Yeah.
find out about these different areas,
Yeah.
and then you can make that informed decision and rule things out. And do you
Yeah.
see a lot of that, Freya, in terms of like the young people that come in? They maybe aren't 100% sure on what you want to do. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are so many apprenticeships out there at the moment, which is
Yeah.
just amazing. There are so many different opportunities that students can take in terms of kind of the future for them. I mean, my biggest advice to anyone that's looking at an apprenticeship is be curious. You know,
Yeah.
just like Sami was saying, you know, go do that research, have a look what's out there. You know, there's a lot of information on websites. If you look at the KPMG website, for instance, there is a lot of information about the length of the program, the qualification you'll get, what it will look like, a lot about our values, who we are as a firm, what we represent as well as case studies from current apprentices as well that are on there that I would really advise people to have a read through and get a feel from that side. Equally, the student recruitment team, you know, the team that I work within, we're available to answer. We have lots of queries that come through to us to ask what's the difference between consulting and audit. You know, we're really happy to answer those questions and make sure that people feel really comfortable when applying. And finally, come to the events. So we have a lot of different events that we run, whether that be virtual, come join us on Teams or Skype, whatever it might be, or come meet with us. We have events running in office or at kind of local schools or fairs. Come to those events and come, you know, see what it's like, come visit us and really get a feel, you know, meet with our current apprentices, meet with kind of the student recruitment team, bring your mum, bring your dad, bring your, you know, guardian, whoever it might be, but come along and speak to us. And I think it's really important for students to do that because it's really daunting to know what you want to do. You know, in your last year of school and you're trying to, you know, get through your exams. And so, yeah, just be curious and have a feel for what's out there and get a feel for what is it that I'm interested in, what is it that I really kind of want to do, because ultimately it's a 5-year program. You're going to get a qualification out of it, so you need to make sure that it, you know, is something that you are interested in, in order to go ahead and do that exam and go ahead and do kind of the program itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very different to fully, you know, the traditional route in terms of university where you're working full-time and studying. So you've got to be dedicated to it. And like you said, you've got to enjoy it, but also you've got to want to do the work to put in.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to hear, Sami, about your experience at school and with your parents and what that looked like for you in terms of, one, wanting to do an apprenticeship, like what sparked it for you, and two, how did they receive the news, I guess?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of school, it wasn't really talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people talked about, okay, there's an option where you could gain experience and qualifications without getting into debt. I mean, that was like, oh my God, I didn't know this was a thing until I kind of did my own research, talked to current apprentices. And in terms of kind of my parents and how they thought of it, I think it's important to note, like, in the South Asian culture, it's not normal for, you know, young professionals or young people to go into apprenticeships. I think it's not the usual thing. I mean, they kind of want us to become, you know, lawyers, doctors through the traditional university route. And I think that's seen as the gold standard, and apprenticeships are the lesser option in their eyes, which is, it's not the right way to think about it, but culturally that's the case. So I think, funny story actually, I applied to apprenticeships and university, right? So I got my 5 offers. So I applied to Southampton, Royal Holloway, London universities. And towards the end of it, say August time, I decided to withdraw all my applications without telling my parents.
Wow.
So I didn't tell my parents, and
Oops.
like I at the time I didn't have any apprenticeship offers either. So I didn't
Wow.
have any offers. I withdrew my university offers. So essentially I was genuinely set for a gap year, to the point where I applied to a phone shop where I live, and got the offer to work there for a year during my gap year. So I was so kind of set on apprenticeships to withdraw my university offers and kind of be in the dark a little until I got the offer. But yeah, I think it's just important that we kind of inform parents about the benefits of apprenticeships and what
Yeah.
they're all about.
And I guess it's important for your parents as well, because you are still getting a degree.
Yeah.
Fair enough, it's not the traditional route, but that's
Yeah.
still the route you're taking. It's just in a different way that perhaps they don't know about.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. And culturally wise, that is still what you're doing, and you're going to be a chartered accountant.
Yeah.
So that's amazing for them to understand. But I suppose when you first initially said it, perhaps they didn't have that understanding.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they think university is kind of, that's where most people are doing, right? Like all the doctors you see, all the lawyers, all the accountants, all the people at the top, they've gone to university. So for someone to say, okay, I want to do an apprenticeship, then as parents, they want the best for you. They would be like, okay, will this kind of guarantee you the path to success or path to this high level career? And as you said, it's just worth noting that you'll get the extra experience over university students, but also you financially will build such a strong base
Yeah.
where you not only get paid, but you avoid that student debt, which is on average around £46,000 now. I mean, it's going to take you years, even decades to pay it off. And it's not viable for a lot of people given the cost of living crisis. Like, I think it's important to kind of think about the financial element, but also the fact that you get that work experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I know, Freya, it's important to you to not kind of compare apprenticeships and university as a two, but what do you see internally around kind of apprenticeships and the programs? Because I know you've got a grad scheme as well.
Yeah.
So how do you see that kind of coming from the full perspective?
Yeah, so if you look at the journey of apprentices and graduates coming into the firm, they actually all end up in the same kind of space in terms
Yeah.
of the qualification. So, you know, depending on the program that you pick, if we go for Audit, the ACA or the ICAS, you know, from the Scotland regions, you know, within some of the others, the specialist qualifications that are linked to them. But at the end of that journey, you're all getting the same. So it might be that for an apprentice, it's a 5-year program compared to a 3-year program. But as you mentioned, that gives you kind of more of the experience. You know, 5 years experience plus an ACA qualification, you know, is really, you know, valuable. So I would say, you know, in terms of apprentices and university, it's really down to preference. It's really down to the individual. You've mentioned, obviously, you know, there's things to factor in like costs, but reality is apprenticeships have been designed to give people opportunities. So it's not that you have to go down the traditional route if you don't want to. Of course you can if that is the right thing for you. But the apprenticeship is there to offer you something else. So if that is not kind of where you find yourself going, then there is an alternative route for us to look at, which gives you kind of the same qualification, same experience, you know, through that pathway.
Yeah, and do you find that you're saying that message a lot to teachers and parents?
Yes, I think, you know, for parents, I completely understand that an apprenticeship might seem quite daunting because they're not as well known as kind of the university pathway. And sometimes I think there can be a bit of a misconception around what does an apprenticeship mean. You know, getting an apprenticeship in a professional services firm, you know, getting the ACA qualification or getting, you know, a qualification through the tax program or the consulting program or technology program or becoming a qualified solicitor. You know, those are probably not things that have been known about apprentices. And I think really what we need to do is just bring that kind of information to influencers, parents, teachers, guardians, in terms of all of these great benefits if you come to an apprenticeship side, and actually what that would mean, what happens at the end of it, you know, what will be the kind of the career progression for, you know, that individual.
Yeah, and I think the career progression one is something to really kind of highlight, because a lot of I think there's a lot of stigma around apprenticeships, and that, you know, they get you in and you do your 18 months and then you're out. And that's not the case for so many organisations like yourself.
Correct.
You know, you want them to grow within, and you, at the end of the day, you're investing in that young person.
100%.
So you want to keep them within the organisation. And I guess in terms of like application processes, I know you mentioned there, you know, teachers, parents, careers advisors, they can't possibly know every application process under the sun because, wow, there's a lot. But what does yours look like? And if someone's listening to this right now and they're thinking of applying to KPMG, how's that going to look for them over the next few months?
Yeah, definitely. So what I would say is definitely have a look on our website in terms of all our live vacancies. Again, do that research on the different programs that are available. Have a look at those case studies of current apprentices. Have a look at the qualification. You know, is that really something that you want to do? Is that kind of the area that you're interested in? And then if you have found the right one, hopefully with KPMG, then what will happen is you'll make an application. We don't have CVs, so you don't need to worry about having to do your CV up. We just take an application from you, and then you'll go into the first bit, which is our online assessments. And the online assessments are really designed to kind of understand the strengths that you have, understand your career motivation, and really get kind of a good feel from you in terms of, you know, do you meet kind of the values that KPMG are looking for. Once you've done that, there's a second online stage that you'll need to complete, which is more around kind of a video element and a written element. And to note, all of this is all done kind of online. So therefore, you know, you can do that in your own time, you can do that in your own space, so you will complete that. And then the final stage, really excitingly for this year, is our Launchpad, which is our assessment centre, which is face-to-face. So you will get a chance to come meet with us, come meet with our partners, our directors, our apprentices, the student recruitment team, and spend kind of half a day with us, really kind of learning about us, doing a couple of kind of exercises and assessments, and getting some really nice understanding around kind of what our values are, what that means to us, and hopefully what they will get from us as well if they're kind of successful after that as well.
Yeah, so thank you. That's really comprehensive, and I'm sure so many young people find that super useful. And how are you finding doing those Launchpads back in person now since COVID?
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's such a nice experience to bring everyone back together. Appreciate, obviously, when the pandemic hit, we had to go back to virtual.
Yeah.
But having everyone together and just getting that buzz from the assessment centres is just incredible. So it's really nice, actually, because the day doesn't just consist of lots of exercise or assessments. There are a lot of non-assessed activities as well. So some really nice kind of gentle activities that people can get involved in just to learn a little bit more about us. So yeah, it's really exciting, and it's just a great day, I think.
Yeah, and how did you find that experience, Sami, from your perspective in terms of the application? And yeah, were you daunted about it at all? Like, how did you find it?
Yeah, I think it was quite well run, definitely. It was scary though.
Yeah.
I mean, from kind of not knowing about apprenticeships to kind of getting put into the application process of, you know, online interviews and assessments, and it was quite tough. But I mean, I kind of navigated it through doing my research, kind of understanding what each stage is about. And in terms of how I found it it was alright, to be honest. It was fine. I mean, as you said, being online, it was quite helpful because you had your own kind of environment where you could complete it in your own time. And I think that's really important because another thing to note, actually, the virtual Launchpad, mine was done virtually, and I think it being in person brings so much more out of people.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be great. But overall, it was for all students applying, I think it's very well structured, and I think if you take each stage on its own merits and understand why it's actually created, what's the purpose behind it, I think you could really do well.
Yeah, and I think it is daunting for a lot of young people and teachers, parents who are trying to help them navigate these 6-stage processes. But it's from kind of student recruitment's perspective, it's just so that they're best suited to the business. You know, they need to go through these kinds of application processes to ensure that it's right for them, and also that, you know, they're right for you. So totally understand why a lot of businesses do it and organisations, and it's great that you had a positive experience, and I know so many young people do. And yeah, great that those Launchpads are back in person. And how did you find kind of the navigating the applications in general? Like, did you apply for many other apprenticeships, Sami? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I applied to, I believe, 40 apprenticeships,
Mm-hmm.
and that was between kind of law and accounting.
Okay.
So I think for all students, I mean, you don't need to apply to just one area.
Yeah, definitely.
As you said, with KPMG, they offer so many different areas, you know, technology, consulting, risk, legal. I think it's important to kind of see all your options and not get fixated on one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of kind of navigating it, I think it was overall it was okay. It was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that's even a bit of a stress for
Yeah.
a lot of young people. And I don't know if you see that, Freya, from your team's perspective in like, I guess, apprentices versus grads. There's probably a big difference in kind of the confidence levels. What advice would you give for whether it's influencers or young people who might be coming into this for the first time?
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. I think it is really daunting. I think for a lot of people who are applying for apprenticeship programs, this is the first time that they've ever really done any form of application. So on our website, we have a lot of hints and tips. We have practice exercises that you
Amazing.
can do. So I would really, again, encourage anyone that's interested in applying to any of our programs to go through that, you know, have a look at the hints and tips, have a look at our values, have a look at the application process that we've, you know, got up so you can really understand what am I going to expect from each stage. You know, do that practice paper, do that practice exercise to get a feel for what the questions might be like or how it's structured so that you feel confident going in, and really just take your time with it. I think that's probably the most important thing. I think sometimes people get quite worried about doing it and then rush through, but actually just take your time. You know, you can step away if you need to, you can continue, you know, make sure that you've got a really quiet space or, you know, a place that you can really focus on the assessment or the applications, and then that should hopefully kind of work through. But I think it's really important, and what you said before is, you know, the application processes are there obviously to make sure that the right candidates are coming through for the roles, but equally, you know, making sure that this is the right company for you
yeah.
as well. You know, there might be, you know, you might go through it and think, actually, this is not right for me. I've actually learned about this and that's not something I'm interested in. And that's okay too. It's part of the learning process. And so I would just really encourage people again, just to, you know, really use the application process to get a feel for, you know, what the role might be like, what you might be getting from that, and really making sure that that's the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sami, how did you find the transition from school to work? Because I think that's another thing that's not spoken about enough, and maybe students aren't as prepared for. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I think it was quite a culture shock. I think it was really difficult to kind of go from your sixth form, your college, being surrounded by, you know, people your age, to going to a corporate environment.
Yeah.
But I think with KPMG it was everyone is friendly in the sense that they treat you as a colleague, not an apprentice. Although you're 18 years old and you're working with sort of people much older than you, much more experienced than you, I think KPMG did a really great job of kind of bringing you in, having the induction at the beginning, and kind of integrating you within the firm with the onboarding, with kind of introductions throughout your apprenticeship. I think that was it was really helpful. But yeah, in terms of how I found it, it was definitely difficult understanding how everything works. Aside from the technical skills, I think just understanding how a 9 to 5 operates, you know, your routine. Routine is a big thing, right? Because from college, you have your subjects, you have your school lessons, but then at work, you kind of have your own responsibilities, and it's quite difficult to kind of manage your time, and, you know, you're responsible for different workloads. And I think that was quite tough.
Yeah.
But I think over time, within the first year, you kind of get used to it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I remember my first kind of week when I was doing my apprenticeship. You don't know when to go for lunch. You don't know if you're allowed to go to the toilet, that kind of thing. You know, you're thrown into this world. You're suddenly kind of top of the chain at school, and then all of a sudden you're not, I don't want to say bottom, but you're the youngest. You're the youngest by quite far. And even, you know, how to write an email, how to send a meeting, all of those kind of things you're not prepared for. But like you say, a lot of these companies, including KPMG, have brilliant inductions, and at the end of the day, they want you to be there. They've invested in you, and the team has asked to have an apprentice. So there's always lots of support around in terms of like pastoral care and things as well. And I just wanted to ask Sami, in terms of kind of your apprenticeship journey, why was it KPMG? What stood out to you for you to want to be there in terms of your career?
I think the main thing was the culture.
Okay.
I think within most accounting firms, within the industry in general, KPMG really stood out to me because it was a really open culture. Everyone's super friendly, you know, whether it's managers, partners, directors. No one's kind of in their own little space, not wanting to talk to you. I think everyone was super open, super friendly. And I got that through kind of talking to a lot of different apprentices, attending events, attending kind of insight days. So I think the first thing was the culture, but also their kind of opportunities. Because as a multidisciplinary firm, right, you get exposure to so many different areas. Like, you're not just surrounded by accountants, right? I'm not in a room full of auditors all the time. You know, you might have lawyers, you might have, you know, people from consulting. So I think having that kind of mix was really important to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think also the kind of presence the firm had in general, not only globally, but in terms of each industry, was quite helpful as an apprentice because you get so much different responsibilities. And I think at kind of a firm like KPMG, you could ask for something and they could kind of provide that to you, and you could kind of work on that and build your own skills.
Yeah. And how have you found opportunities outside of your role? Like, are you part of any kind of the social life, you know, events, networks? Because that's another thing we get all the time is I'm going to uni because of the social life, like, as if apprentices don't have one at all. So, how have you found that?
Yeah, of course. It's not like we just, you know, study, work and then sit down, you know, like KPMG, not only KPMG, every kind of firm that offers apprenticeships, they're pushing for apprentices to go out there, network, socialize. I mean, every month, I would say, in our department, we have socials, right? I think it's important to note that, like, apprentices do have a social life, and whether it's with apprentices only, whether it's with other apprentices from different firms, and whether it's kind of going out, going to restaurants, going to activities, there's a lot of different opportunities. And outside of work, there's a lot of networks as well. KPMG, we have many different networks, right? For example, myself, I'm part of the Muslim network, and this is currently the month of fasting, so the month of Ramadan. So there's a lot of opportunities to kind of, you know, get together as a community within a larger firm, and I think that's really nice. I think that was really good. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think, that's great to hear that you've, you know, made friends in the business and your teams and also through your networks as well. And I know we've kind of touched on it in the different business areas, but a lot of young people might not understand audit as a role. And I know it's an opportunity that's live at KPMG at the moment. So would you be able to maybe share a bit of light around what does being an auditor mean and what does that look like for you?
Of course. I mean, initially, when I first went into the role, I didn't know what that meant. I don't know what an auditor does. Like, I know audit related to the review of something, but I was clueless, right? But I think over time I learned that, I mean, as a second year apprentice, I guess to summarize, audit is the review of financial information for companies. So say an investment fund or an investors would to invest in a business, the first thing they will look at is financial statements, and we're the ones who provide assurance to that and provide confidence and trust to them. So our role is to provide assurance to the capital markets, essentially, which means we're providing assurance to all the different investors, all the different users of, you know, the business, who might be affected by the business.
And what would you say, like, in terms of young people, if you were speaking to someone now and they said, what skills do you think you would need for that role? What would you say?
I think the first thing would be analytical skills. You need to be able to read within the lines and kind of understand the underlying motives behind certain things. So say a transaction was made, as an auditor, you would kind of question it. You would use professional skepticism and kind of ask, okay, why was this done? What does this relate to? Kind of having those analytical skills. And then secondly, kind of attention to detail, I think is key. I mean, one figure and, you know, a lot of things could go wrong, right? So, I mean, in terms of finance and audit in general, I think having the ability to kind of focus on the small details is really important, because I think no detail is insignificant. I think everything should be looked at. So I think attention to detail, analytical skills, and also communication skills, right? Because a lot of people think that auditors just sit in a room and just stay on their laptops. I think that's quite a big misconception. But I mean, as auditors, it's a client-facing role, right? So you're talking to clients, you're communicating with them. So I think communication skills are also key.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, Freya, is there anything that you'd add to that in terms of the, I guess, plethora of roles that you've got at KPMG and what might suit best for young people?
Yeah, I think the first thing that I would say is you don't necessarily have to have that background to go into that apprenticeship role.
Yeah.
So when we talk about audit, we're not saying that you need to come from a finance, you've got to have a finance A-level, for instance, or you need to have a mathematical A-level. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying we're open to all. So we really value different backgrounds, diverse ways of thinking, so if you don't have that but you are wanting to learn that or are interested in that, you can still apply for our programs. And I think that's really important to say that, because again, with our technology programs, we're not saying you need to have a technology or a STEM A-level, but you need to show us that through the application process that you are interested in this area and that you're interested in KPMG, and that, if we give you the tools and the expertise that we have, you're going to, take that and be, really willing to learn and develop with that as well, and be successful in role. So in terms for us, we actually have kind of some key strengths that we look for throughout our application process. Career motivation, is aside from that, but as from the strength side, things around, innovation. How innovative are you? How do you think? When you look at information, how do you look at that? Things like resilience. You're going to be studying and working at the same time, and there are lots of socials and lots of fun things that you can get involved in. But essentially, there is also going to be some times where it's going to be bit more difficult, where you're going to have to studying and working at the same time. We look at things like collaboration. That's really important to us. How do you connect with each other? How do you connect with other people? We cannot function as a firm without the support and help of each other's. And just like Sami said, he'll be in a meeting, but it won't just be auditors all sat in a room. There'll be some lawyers there, or it could be that you've got some technologists in there. And so it's really important that we can work together and collaborate as a group to make sure that we are offering the best services to our clients and audited entities. So what I would say is have a look at the strengths that we have. There are an array of strengths that we look for throughout our application process. And really that's what we're looking when we look at candidates applying to us. Can you demonstrate those to us?
Yeah, and I just want to pick up on something that you said there around, you don't have to have these skills before you come in that's a big misconception. I think so many young people think that they need to come in as a fully fleeting accountant, or a fully qualified software engineer, and that's just not the case. These apprenticeships are designed for people to learn.
Correct.
So yeah, that I'm really happy we kind of touched on that, because I think it's a massive misconception across the board in terms of apprenticeships. So so thank you both so much for your time today. It's been really great to have you both on the sofa talking about KPMG and all the amazing programs that you have. So yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.